Hey, good morning, Dan. I'm making this video because I'm not going to be able to talk to you on Tuesday. I'll be actually running some faculty meetings at O'Day, some trainings there actually on OneNote. You ask why why 365 over Google? I've never used Google Classroom. I do know quite a few educators who do, and most of them who've been in that environment do enjoy the Google Classroom, but I've also met a lot of educators who have transferred from Google Classroom into Office 365, and almost all of them have been very happy to have moved. They weren't happy at first because they're familiar with the environment, but they were happy they moved. But all those people that were happy, the one thing they had in common is that they had training. They had somebody in the building that knew what they were doing. The people that adopted Office 365 knew why they were adopting 365. And so today I just want to go through, kind of how I envision using technology in the classroom, and how we go about analyzing what's good and what's not good. And then I'm going to apply it to one product in Office 365, OneNote, that I think is kind of the game changer for me. It's the thing that makes Office 365 the best choice. So I'm just going to go through first. I'm actually doing this presentation using OneNote. And so when we recognize good content, we want something that can add graphics. We want something that kind of lets learners learn in sort of different ways, gives them different learning paths that they can do on their own. We want something that has I'm going to switch to my highlighter here. We want something that you can interact with. We want something that gives us the ability to assess the content. We want a user interface that is that's intuitive. Really, if you get everybody on the same user interface, whether it's Google Classroom or Office 365, things become intuitive because everyone's using it. So definitely have a harmonized strategy. The other thing that's really big for me is going to be cognitive load. I have two daughters in grade school right now, and the amount of paper that gets sent home is overwhelming, and I'm beginning a strategy with them where I'm starting to take pictures of their homework and having them digital ink using their Amazon Fires with OneNote. I can get back to you on how that goes because I'm just starting that. So something as universal design, something that's also really important is that you want people to be able to access this from different platforms. You want responsive design, something that responds to whether they're on a tablet, whether they're on their phone, or whether they're on a desktop or a Surface. So I'm going to go through these things today. Sorry, this is actually a presentation I'm putting together. So we're looking at what we're going to do for digital content. So I'm not going to go into this, but in my mind, here's the game changer. It is Microsoft OneNote. What makes it a game changer here is that students have multiple notebooks. They can do it per class. They can do it just for the school. This is just a screenshot of it, but I'm just going to highlight a few things. In this app, they have a welcome page, and so the welcome page is this. This is what students will see right when they come in. This was for a class I taught a couple years ago, Poverty in America. They also have a space that's collaborative, which means that when you get into this space, everybody can access the same white space, and students can be working with each other. Of course, it means that anybody can delete anybody's work and anybody can contribute to somebody's work. So some digital literacy is important. There's the content library where you can put things in that students cannot edit, but they can copy and paste it into their own notebooks. And the real sweet thing is that every student then gets their own notebook. So I can go into any student's notebook and I can see what kind of work they're doing. And I can then grade it. I can give them feedback. It's real time. And I'm going to go through this interactive kind of how do you put together a lesson and how do you collect it? I'm just going to kind of do it from my end. So let's get going on that. So I'm in my EdTech notebook. This is actually it's like a class notebook. And in the sense that I have my welcome page with all of my tabs. This is how I keep track of everything that's going on in my world. But I also like my administration to be able to see what I'm doing. We don't have a ton of time to meet, so at any time they can go into my OneNote notebook and see my notes from the conferences I'm going to. They can see meeting minutes from former meetings, and they all have, just like a OneNote class notebook, they all have their own section here. You can see they have a content library, and I've just done a few things to make this like a classroom so that you can see it. I'm actually going to go into my content library, show you what I have, show you how I exported it to groups, and then kind of how students interact with it. So if I go to my content library, I must have hit the wrong button because I don't see myself in my content library. So let's went to Greg's notebook by accident. So if I go into my content library right here, that's what I want. It keeps taking me Greg's. I should probably get out my mouse. I'm doing this using my finger. I'm going to use the pen here. Let's go back up. And in here, I've made a few lessons here, and I did these relatively quickly. I did this for this presentation. Took me about 20 minutes to do this page. I used to teach photography, so I thought to myself, well, what's interesting that we can go through. I made this in like 5 minutes, a page for Spanish. I don't teach Spanish, but I was able to put some worksheets and some things from the web in there. This one is actually a sample from another school. It's a high school level thing. But the idea is that on this page, you can have your entire unit. And what this does is reduces cognitive load. The students don't have multiple worksheets they're dealing with. They go to one page and they have all of the work they need to do for that unit in this one page, and they can interact with it. I'm going to go into basically a student's notebook in a second and interact with all of these so you can see what it's like. But I also have this to go through. This was a presentation that was given by a colleague on OneNote. I'm just going to highlight some of the things he did that make OneNote really special. You can export to students, any sort of content. So in some respects, you can liberate yourself from workbooks and from worksheets. You can give them any content you want. They can annotate it. They can highlight it. It has visuals, has interactive elements that I'll show you in a second. Math is amazing. You can graph. You can actually color mix. So this here, if you see this area here, let me go to if you see this here, this is a student drawing with the blue highlighter and then with the yellow, and it actually makes green. So this software does a lot of really cool stuff that students would like to engage with it. You can, and this is really probably going to be cool for middle schoolers, is that you can draw. You can, with your pen tool up here, you can see you can choose all sorts of different colors, and you can choose different brush sizes, and you can actually do concept maps and draw on on a device, whether it's an Amazon Fire or a Surface. It does have to have touch interactivity. That would be really important for to really get the most out of this. But the drawing elements are really cool. But OneNote really gives you the idea. You can embed forms. You can embed video. And let me just go into the thing that I made. Like this, you can do maps and draw on it real time in class, and also students can draw on it. So let me go into this notebook here. I'm going to go into one of my staff members who's probably not going to be at the meeting that I'm going to highlight this on. I'm going to go into Jason's. And you can see over here, I'm in Jason's notebook. This is technically his notebook. I made a tab called In-Class Work, and you can see from my content library, I very quickly exported this page to him. It takes a second after you build it. And this page here goes through the zone system. I have in here made spaces for my photography students to put their own images. I've given them a reading they have to do, and I would expect them to then take notes on this reading. So taking these bolded words here, and I want them to write the information over here. So they would have to write characteristic curve. My handwriting's terrible. But, I would then be able to go to each of their notebooks and see, did they interact with this? Did they do the homework? For students that work slower, it's great because that you can have some elements they have to turn in. You can actually then develop areas for, hey, when you're done with this, you still have class time. Put in your headbuds. You can watch this video. This video is embedded here. If you just go to it and press play, you probably won't hear it because I think it only is recording my voice. But if you press play, it'll play the movie. You can zoom in. You can actually just have that movie playing while you're taking a look at these other images from Ansel Adams. I'm really trying to get the students to understand different tonal values. They would have to label this. I'm actually going to turn off the video while I do this because what I want them to do during the class time is say, hey, in the zone there's 1 through 11. I want you to try to label 1 through 11, and they can take their pen real quickly and realize that they're probably going to have to draw in white or something so that it can be seen. And I want them to, give me an idea. Maybe they think this is this here is in the 4 range. Maybe they think this is in the 3 range. Maybe they think this here is in the 11 range. So they can draw on this, and they can actually look and see, are you going through your rule of thirds? They can zoom out and they can go to all these different images. And then what's really cool is that on that same page, they can click in this box, which I've asked them to insert some images. So I'm actually going to have them insert a picture. And, I've got some of my photos here, and I'll go up and see if I can, if I had my mouse out, this would be quicker. The students would probably have a mouse connected. I'm just using this with the touch. But if I go in and find my images here, there they are. Some pictures. I've got some pictures from the Olympic Peninsula that I really liked. With my kids, I'm going to find, one that has a good range. I'm going to insert it. And you'll see it's small, so, relative to other things. So I'm just going to make it bigger by grabbing it and making it bigger. I'd like to rotate it so it's the right shape. So, I can just go to... I should probably review these quick keys. I can rotate it to the left 90 degrees, and in a second it should rotate for me. I can then readjust it like the teacher wants it in this box, so I can bring it back up, put it in the box. And then I can look at my image and I can say, all right, do I have good tonal values here? I can assess my own image. I can say, writing all the contrast if you like, this is an 11 or this is a 3. I can say, all right, let's divide this up into the thirds. So it's a really interactive tool. I don't know any software that can do this. You can actually have a whole lesson on one page. This lesson, I would probably give my students about several days to go through it. I'm able to have them, type in. They can either handwrite, I'm probably going to go back to my black pen, but they can handwrite answers here. Or if they have handwriting like mine and they don't like it, they can come in here with the type tool and they can type their answer. Of course, that ended up being really small because I actually made this a really big, but they'll have to, and it operates a lot like Microsoft Word, so anybody that has some experience with Word is going to be able to use it. But then I can type my answer, and let's say someone does end up making it really small. Let's say they do go in and they make that really small text. Well, now it's going to default to my, let's say they do that really small text, as the educator would see it, but you can zoom in all the way and take a look at what's being written. And that's one of the really cool features of this, is that, especially for something like photography, if I want to go in and look at the detail of an image, I can really get in there and I can see grain, I can see tone. It's really sweet. So that's one of those elements. If I go back to these other pages I set up in my content library, I keep going into Greg's. I really just want my content library. A student's notebook is probably not going to have all the stuff I have, because if I go back to that content library and you have simple little worksheets like this, that the student can, get an answer. But if it's wrong, boy, the great thing is you can erase without like ruining the paper.